Anybody that's charging $100 an hour right now for SEO, don't charge more.
That was Eli Schwartz, an SEO strategist and consultant to some of the biggest brands in the world, including Wordpress, Quora, Zendesk, and Shutterstock. He recently wrote a book called Product-Led SEO, which sold 2,000 copies on its first day and became a bestseller on Amazon.
I accidentally wrote a book that people wanted to read.
You're about to learn the secrets behind landing big-name clients and what to charge them. What did Eli get out of coining the term product-led SEO and publishing a best-selling book about it?
I thought I'll write this book, my family will buy it, I'll give it out to clients, and it'll be like my business card. The part, again, I didn't expect was that I was going to sell thousands of books.
Why programmatic SEO and product-led SEO are not the same thing? I honestly thought they are.
Programmatic SEO is a tool for making product-led SEO. It's a way that you can scale a product, but they're not interchangeable.
And why Eli thinks that SGE will decimate up to 90% of search traffic in 2024.
What I've learned from various people that I've met who work at Google is that the Googlers want to launch it. It's sitting in this ready state, but Google itself is scared.
My name's Tim Solo, and you're listening to Ahrefs Podcast.
Ahrefs Podcast.
It's actually pronounced Ahrefs.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Let's do it again. Ahrefs Podcast.
So basically, the last time we met, I think you were still working at SurveyMonkey here in Singapore, because I don't remember meeting you outside of Singapore anywhere.
Right.
And basically, when you left Singapore, I think this is when you went solo, right?
No, 2 years afterwards, I went solo in 2019. Yeah. So I left Singapore in end of 2016, and I went solo in 2019.
Did you keep working for SurveyMonkey, or was there something in between?
No, I stayed at SurveyMonkey.
I wonder, how did you make a decision to do it on your own? Like, did you have lots of consulting requests, or did you just jump right in? What was like, how did it happen?
All right, so great question. I'm going to answer because we're recorded. So I developed this approach to SEO, which I ended up calling product-led SEO, but I didn't know the name for what product-led SEO would be. And it's an approach that I'd been working on for about 10 years, which is building products around users, building experiences around users and not around just search engine queries. And it's something that I talked about at conferences, I wrote about a bunch, and I would get a bunch of inbound. And when I would talk to people about it, they would say, oh, that's very interesting. Where do I learn more about it? And that I started writing more, and then that eventually became a book. But what happened was I was getting all these really cool projects because of the SurveyMonkey brand, but then I started getting even cooler projects because cooler projects brought in cooler projects. And at some point I was making more money on the side than I was for my day job. And I was trying to structure my day job around this consulting. And at that point, it made no sense to not go on my own. I had a client, they asked me to come fly in to their marketing meeting. And I'm like, I can't because I work. And then that was what made me think about it. It's like, why do I have work? Maybe I should just do this full time. But that's how it got there. The other thing that really kicked things off was and I should share this on LinkedIn. I did a video podcast interview with Y Combinator. And I didn't really think much of it. I didn't know how many people followed or listened to it. But when I did this interview, I generated so much inbound that I had no idea. So I was getting these CEOs. There was a couple CEOs of public companies that emailed me. And there's so many messages on LinkedIn, I wasn't paying attention. One of them was the CEO. And he's like, hey, I'd love to have a beer with you if you're ever in New York. So I was like, oh, cool. If you're ever in the Bay Area, I'd have a beer with you too. And then I went back to look at all my messages because I was just responding to make sure I didn't ignore anybody. I was like, oh, wait, that's a public company and that's the CEO. So I ended up doing a consulting project for them and it was a big brand. But that all came from that Y Combinator video. And then big brands led to other big brands. And I forget what year that was. It's probably around 2017. So it took 2 years to build up to that point where I went on my own.
So wait, are you saying that interview at Y Combinator, it was some podcast, right?
Yes.
I didn't know they have one. I should check it out probably. So are you saying it was kind of like a tipping point when the amount of inbound just went through the roof?
I'd say the quality of the inbound changed because the Y Combinator podcast. So the Y Combinator podcast, and you can find it on YouTube. So I have a popular one compared to some of the others. Like there's probably, I don't know, last time I looked, it was like 10,000 views. It's a little bit less than their most popular the most popular interview ever, which is Elon Musk. I think has millions of views. But that's the podcast. So like a lot of people listen to it, and that was the tipping point into really quality brands. So prior to that, I hustled projects that came in. They're like, oh, someone would say, oh, SEO, can we hire you to do an audit? But that's when I got these really big brands. One interesting project that came in. So prior to that, and this should be helpful for anybody listening to the podcast that does SEO consulting. So prior to that, I'd done projects, and I made up that I should charge $100 an hour because it seemed like a big number. It's three numbers. It's bigger than $99. It's certainly bigger than $50. And it seemed like an affordable number. And anybody that's charging $100 an hour right now for SEO, don't charge more. But at the time, I was charging $100 an hour. So one of the big brands that came in because of that podcast, I made up a price. So it significantly more than $100 an hour, and it was like a monthly price. So I made up this price, and I expected that they were going to offer me half of that because I was used to that. Like I'd offer somebody something. I'd say, I'm going to do this for 10 hours, $100 an hour. They'd come back and say, how about $5 an hour, $100 an hour? And I'm like, deal, $500. That's great. So this one, it was more numbers. And I made up this price, and I was like, okay, they'll come back at half of this, and this is a pretty good number. I can go on vacation with this number. And then I said the number, and they're like, great, what's your legal name? We're going to send you a contract. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So that was the tipping point. And suddenly I realized that companies would pay real prices for these kinds of things. And then the next inbound that came in, another public company, same idea. I was like, I already have a baseline. So when they said, how much do you charge? I said something like, oh, I work for companies like A, B, and C, and they pay me these prices. And suddenly they're like, oh, okay, we'll pay you that too. So that's how it started accruing. And instantly I shifted my mindset from selling by the hour to selling by the month and selling by the project. And that was a game changer. So many SEOs are out there and they're looking at hourly projects. Hourly projects don't scale because you only have, I don't know, if you're working the hardest possible, you only have 80 hours per week. Don't work more than 80. Don't work more than 40 hours per week if you're consulting, like you'll burn out. But let's say you're working 80 hours per week. There was a fixed amount of hours per week. And when you're working by the hour, you're not being compensated for your experience unless you have a good hourly price. You're not being compensated by experience because your experience allows you to work faster than an hour. So what should you do? You should just like fiddle there on the computer. That's unethical and dishonest. So when you charge by the project, you're baking that in. So I'm completing the project at a faster rate. And the truth is, and this is where, and I've never done this because I've never been good at this, you could really upskill by outsourcing. So if you're doing an audit, you charge a fixed price for the audit based on your hours, but there's no reason you can't outsource pieces of that. Like let's say analyzing the crawl, you can give that to someone else. They can give you all the pieces of the crawl. Or analyzing the UX by clicking on all the links, you can outsource that, right? Obviously the conclusions you're being paid for, but that's where you really up level when you charge by the project. But if you're charging by the hour, so what am I going to do? I'm going to charge $100 an hour and I'm going to game it by charging someone else $25 or like paying someone else $25. Again, that may not be fair. So that was the real big switch when I switched into charging by the project and charging by the month.
This is so good. There's so much to unpack, but just the last idea of charging by the project and outsourcing bits, I like it a lot because, let's face it, there's a lot of kind of boring menial job in SEO, which you don't necessarily have to do yourself. Because the other day I was in a similar situation. We were trying to understand why our blog articles are not ranking for specific things. And I just wanted to take the top ranking page for whatever keyword we wanted to rank and compare it with ours, like for 20 different keywords. Like what's with the outbound links, what's with the inbound links, what's with the, I don't know, schema implementation, like are they like well optimized for mobile, yada, yada, yada. And obviously, I don't want to do it myself because I would waste a ton of time. I just want the insights. So what I did is I hired an SEO agency. I sent them the URLs and they said, like, give me an analysis and I want a table with the breakdown of differences. And then I, as basically a specialist, would analyze and think, oh, this is different, but this is not important. This seems like something that could be giving our competitors an advantage, yada, yada, yada. So I think this is very cool that, yeah, basically you don't have to do everything yourself, even if kind of the contract is with you and the client is paying you, but still they're paying you for the insights. And how you arrive at those insights is totally your thing. This is very cool.
Yeah, and it's a great tie into Ahrefs where it's that there's no reason you shouldn't use a tool like Ahrefs to get this quick summary. You don't have to do the research yourself. So outsourcing and giving it to someone else is the same as a tool. You don't need to do it yourself. Like I don't need to go and Google every ranking term to figure out where I rank and put it in a spreadsheet. Ahrefs already summarizes that for me. So contractors are tools, just like SEO tools.
Yeah. You have some amazing names among your clients. So to name a few, Shutterstock, Blue Nile, Quora, Mixpanel, WordPress, Zendesk. It's impressive. And like you said, there was a time when the quality of your clients changed a lot. But what I'm interested to dig into is how your so-called deliverables and tasks, like what the clients are expecting from you, changed. Because it's one thing to do SEO for kind of like a smaller company who doesn't have resources, who doesn't have its own team. And I would imagine that someone like Zendesk or Quora, they do have their in-house SEO team. So what they need from you is probably different. So I wonder what kind of value you give to those big clients who can afford hire their own SEO professionals. How does it look like?
So most of what I'm doing today is SEO strategy consulting. So I'm working with really cool brands and growth teams and product teams to come up with the strategy to unlock SEO growth. Some of them have SEO managers, some of them don't. But either way, I'm working with the product team to develop what they should be creating and how they should be structuring things at a higher level, and a strategic level, and a holistic level to unlock SEO growth. I find that SEO managers are typically lower on the totem pole, and they're closing tickets, they're writing title tags, they're doing crawls, they're analyzing things, and they're not higher up in the food chain in the company to develop a strategy to go to market for a new product or to really unlock growth. And connecting the dots here between charging more and really building a consulting practice. So one of the things that I was able to do was by doing strategic consulting and building some of these projects, I'm unlocking not just like a deliverable, like you asked. I'm unlocking a significant amount of revenue. So there have been some companies I worked with, like one of my favorite projects I worked on for 2 years, the company fired everyone. They fired the whole growth team. The CEO switched out. I still have access to their data. It is amazing how much money they're driving from this product I built with the growth team, and everyone's fired. Like I connect with them every once in a while. None of them work there anymore. I don't even think anybody knows, but they're driving so much money. So we built something that drives tens of millions of dollars per year. I didn't build it. I mean, I came up with a strategy around it, but obviously the growth team, the engineering team, the product team, the designers, the content people, we built this whole thing together, and they're all gone, and it still drives so much value. So when it comes and it was a well-paying client for me. So when I think about like how much they paid me versus how much they're driving from this thing that didn't exist before, like they got a tremendous amount of value. Whereas when you're doing deliverable consulting, so let's say it's an SEO audit. So you can get an SEO audit from, some random person who pings you on LinkedIn telling you they could do audits for $150, or you can get an SEO audit from, I don't know, iProspect or Neil Patel for $30,000. It's still a deliverable. It's still an asset. Hopefully the $30,000 one is better, but that's a deliverable that they can shop and compare. You can't shop and compare strategies. You can't shop and compare really partnering and collaborating and building something, and that's where you're really unlocking higher value.
I like the term holistic SEO. Did anyone coin it already? Did anyone write a book about it? Let's talk a little bit about that, because whenever we started doing quite a few events here in Singapore office, we do like some smaller meetups all the time, and I often do Q&A to try and give like some good advice and value to people. And oftentimes what I'm seeing is that people try to approach SEO in kind of, for a lack of a better word, technical sense, but not technical as in schema, page load and all that stuff, but as in there are some certain tactics and tools and widgets that they install on their website, and it takes care of SEO magically, and they just don't know what kind of tool or like plugin to install. And what I'm telling them is that SEO is holistic in a sense that it is connected with your business. If you're not the best dentist in town, why should you rank number one? If you don't offer as many dentist services as the other guy, why should you get more search traffic than them? So if you want to get search traffic, your business should be offering something that people are looking for. So it is connected to the business. And it kind of ties in with what you said. You unlocked a new stream of revenue with SEO. So the way I understand it is that you realize that there is a surge demand over like a certain problem or a certain thing that they can build. They build it out. They got this surge demand for themselves and they started monetizing it. So is it SEO or is it like business strategy? It's somewhere in between, and this is why I like the term holistic SEO. And basically, the question I'm going to tie it to is, how do you understand the difference between holistic SEO and product-led SEO? Because the term you coined and wrote a book about is product-led SEO. But so far, I think they're very similar from my understanding.
So it looks like Quora has the term holistic SEO. It's his website. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's, product-led SEO is really about thinking about the user and developing an experience for the user. So that experience could be content. Typically, it's content because that's what most users are searching for. But really, it's about building something for an actual user rather than building something because it drives traffic. So I think it's more than holistic SEO. It's really building a business channel. So for example, I was chatting with a company earlier today, and they told me they have access to a unique data set that has information about their business category that no one else has. And they said, how do we release it? Do we just publicize it? So thinking of that from a product-led SEO lens, I said, what makes this information interesting? Like, how would someone look for it? And it's local-based information. It's information about particular places within their category. So I said, what makes it interesting? Why would someone want to know about the very specifics of these locations? Because all you're going to do is make a richer data set than Google My Business, or just competing with Google or competing with Yelp. So I said, if you can pivot and really understand what is it about the users that they want to know this information and understand the questions they're asking, that's when you build a product. So say it's in the dental space, like your example. It's in the dental space, and we want to know which dentists use lasers. So you could build out these locations and say, these are the dental offices. Then you have a checkbox, yes laser, no laser, and that comes from your rich data set. But if you were to build out actual pages for laser dentists, for example, that's something that users want to know. So your focus is different. Your focus is on answering that very specific intent and building a product around that. Now, I don't know how scalable it is, but ideally, I like product-led SEO to be more than just one page or one query.
Interesting. Again, terminology may vary, and we don't have a single source of truth for like what is what. So people can use their own terms and definitions, essentially. But when you're saying building out pages for dentists with laser in certain locations, to me, it kind of feels like programmatic SEO, where you take a data set and you programmatically create a lot of pages based on this data set. This is kind of something we thought to do with our SEO agencies directory. So basically, because we have a lot of SEO agencies among our clients, and we have pretty strong domain rating, domain authority for hrefs.com domain, we thought, let's create a directory and let's index it in a way where, like, SEO agencies, Austin, Texas would be an indexable page, and people would submit their agencies, whoever is there, and they would create kind of, it's kind of programmatic SEO plus user-generated content at the same time, because users would fill our directory. So yeah, when you're saying creating those pages, again, I like, to me, this sounds like programmatic SEO. But like, would you say programmatic SEO is part of product-led SEO?
Programmatic SEO is a tool for making product-led SEO. It's a way that you can scale a product, but they're not interchangeable. You could have product-led SEO that is not programmatic SEO, and you can have programmatic SEO that is certainly not product-led SEO. An example of bad programmatic SEO might be if you build out something around locations. So let's say you're in the United States, I don't know, there's hundreds of thousands of zip codes, or hundreds of thousands of towns. But there's no real differentiator between any of these towns. Say you're targeting moving companies. When you're looking to move, you potentially don't put into Google the name of your street, the name of your town, your zip code. You're thinking about your metro area. I'm in New York, I'm in Los Angeles, I'm in San Francisco. So programmatic might mean I'm building out pages based on every zip, every building, every town. That's not a product. That's not useful for anybody that's doing those searches, because they're not doing the searches. You built out a lot of pages. A product-led SEO around the same thing is I might build out maps for each zip code, which says, what are the laws around the moving trucks, or what are the sizes of the streets? That becomes a product. So now you're injecting product programmatic, which is the street sizes, the names of streets, pieces of it, and you're building out an actual product that serves a function, which is what kind of moving truck can I have on my street? Does that distinction make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. This is very cool. Yeah.
And the other way around, of course, is product-led SEO. So I can build a product that is not programmatic. So let's say there's no programmatic way to build this moving product. I might have to do manual research and write manual content. It's still a product. It's not as scaled because it's manual, but it's not programmatic. So I've created a useful product for a number of users that it solves a problem, but it's not programmatic. It's content.
Yeah, this is very good.
So product-led SEO is really building around a use case that users care about, and then they're using Google to find it. And this is where I think product-led SEO is somewhat immune to the changes in generative AI, because if there are users that are searching for something, unless generative AI can solve that for them, they're still searching for something. So another example of product-led SEO that I really like is TripAdvisor. So TripAdvisor, they're using programmatic, of course, but they're solving a problem at scale, which is I want to know which hotel to stay in based on the aggregated user ratings. So they're not doing typical led SEO, or typical content led SEO, which is let me write a review of the Raffles Hotel. Let me write a review of the Waldorf Hotel. Manual, right? I'm building these manual pages, building manual links. They're doing all of it at scale. They're using programmatic pieces to fill out this product. That fits a use case. Now, there was a company I met many years ago in the travel space, and they were acquired, and they failed and then were acquired. They were aggregating photos of hotel rooms. That didn't fit a use case. No one needs that. So they were purely SEO focused. They were building all these pages. They were buying tons of links. I met them because we were having an SEO conversation, but no one needs that. No one was looking for it. So they built, I guess, a product, but it's not a product that anyone wanted. So product-led SEO is really what's the use case that users are searching for, and creating the landing page and the landing experience for that use case. So you can build all the restaurant directories you want, and I actually think restaurants are a very challenging place to do SEO, because I don't know how it is in Singapore or any of the other places people are going to listen to this podcast, but in America, at this point, people are looking for restaurants because they want to know what's open, how to get there, like to drive there, or they're just looking for DoorDash. They're not necessarily looking for a restaurant to land on their webpage, to engage with because you can't buy, right? To engage with the webpage like you engage with other web pages. They want a phone number, they want a menu, they want something. So even creating something around restaurants, it has to match a user need.
So we've talked about many of the successful implementations of product-led SEO, and you said specifically that you had a client where you unlocked a large stream of revenue, and you also talked about raising your prices tenfold or whatever. So one thing that naturally comes to my mind is, what if you charge that much and you won't have any good idea for the customer?
I don't take the client. But before I accept any client, I first have to make sure there's a fit for the SEO that I want to help them with. So I don't do audits. I don't typically do keyword research. I don't do link building for sure. I don't do link building. So when I meet with a company, I learn as much as I can about their business. And before I proceed with them in helping them with SEO, I make sure there's a fit for SEO growth. Very, very frequently, I tell companies they shouldn't do SEO at all. And I know it's controversial, but the reason is when I walk through their acquisition experience, like how someone is supposed to find their website and become a buyer, become a customer, do they use SEO? So for example, I don't think B2B SaaS makes the most sense to invest in SEO at the expense of other channels. And the reason is because it's the buyer for a lot of B2B SaaS needs to go through a number of hoops. They need to get approval from their CIO. The team needs to do it. They need to do demos. Sometimes they need a physical salesperson. They need to security reviews, all those things. So yes, SEO sort of plays into that, but I don't know that it plays into it meaningful enough to justify budget. So I would take, again, with finite budgets, I would say spend more money on going to trade shows where you know your buyers are going to be. Spend more money on doing LinkedIn advertising to capture people and capture their information so you can meet them on have a phone call. Spend more money on doing webinars, invite people to webinars, invite them to dinners. Again, finite budgets, I think you're going to get for B2B SaaS, depends on the product, of course, you'll get more buyers and more leads from that channel than you will from SEO. Now, when a company gets very mature and it doesn't really matter, so spend money in SEO. So let's say I just for fun, at the beginning of COVID, I interviewed at Google on Google Cloud. So I wasn't going to take the job. I was actually already going to move out of the area. That was before everyone decided we were going to be remote forever, but now we're not. I was moving, so I was like, I'm not going to take a job at Google anyways. So I used that opportunity to meet smart people, go through Google's interview process, and ask them a lot of questions. And I thought it was fascinating that they focused on search queries, like their KPIs for doing SEO at Google Cloud with search queries. And I just thought it was odd because they have two competitors. For the big Google Cloud product, they have two competitors, Amazon and Microsoft. That's it. So, and it's also for their ideal customer, it's a very expensive purchase. It's not the kind of thing that you're sitting in traffic and you Google something, you're like, oh, Google, I'm buying that, right?
Yeah.
You discover in whatever way you discover it, oh, there's Google Cloud, there's Amazon, and there's Microsoft. Let me evaluate all three of them. Maybe SEO plays into it, but not really. Like if one of those companies didn't do SEO, you would still find out about them. So I just thought it was interesting there was such a focus for them. But again, at billions of dollars of revenue, they can play with SEO. They can hire an SEO manager. They can hire an SEO agency. But for a startup, they certainly shouldn't do SEO. They should put their money in where they'll get the most leads, especially for like a product that has some sort of virality factor. You want to get users early on who will tell other users so you can grow your base and not spend money in SEO and just wait.
Okay. So for every client that reach out to you and you consider working with them, there would be at least one free discovery call where they talk about their business, their challenges, their competitors. Maybe you have some form they need to fill with kind of your typical questions that help you understand them. And then you would take time to do some research and decide if you see an opportunity of how to help them. and decide like, sorry, I think I'm not a good fit for you, or like I have some great ideas and we can work on them. I will help your team like flesh out, implement, and like basically guide you through from the idea and to like implementation, promotion, and blah, blah, blah.
I'd say 2/3 of companies are not a fit, and there's no form. It's just it's a discovery process where we talk about the business. I ask a lot of questions, share with them my approach to SEO, which in many cases is novel to them. And then we talk about their marketing in general. I am of the opinion that everyone should do paid marketing before they do SEO. Like if you haven't maximized paid marketing, then you shouldn't do SEO, because paid is, I mean, again, it's for sure less profitable than SEO. SEO is always going to be the most profitable, but paid is a quick and easy way to learn about the customer, learn about product market fit, drive users very quickly. Like with paid, can you imagine like paid working the way SEO is? Like, oh, you spend money on Google or spend money on Instagram, spend money on Facebook, and you have to wait 12 months to see if it worked out. Like that would never work. Right? With paid, you have almost instant gratification. Like within 24 hours, 48 hours, you know what's working. You may not have, closed deals, but you know what's working. So I think companies should spend money there first. And very often I meet companies that have not. And then I recommend them that, I have a few paid agencies I like. I recommend they talk to them first and try that. I find very often that companies have weird expectations of how SEO is supposed to work. They think it's like social media. They think it's like paid. There's instant gratification. I just met a company earlier. I showed them a competitor and they're like, oh, look, they're at the top of Google. And I'm like, that's an ad. Like so often, it's fun. It's funny. Like, SEOs always get caught up in like SEO jargon, and like very often the customers that we're talking to don't even know the difference between organic and paid. So that's a conversation I have all the time.
So one interesting thought that I had when you were talking about SEO versus paid, and the fact that with paid you can instantly get traffic, while with SEO you'd have to wait. The thing is, if you want paid to work well, you need to send people to pages that are very relevant to the keywords that you're optimizing for. Because you cannot just take all the variety of keywords, all the variety of problems that people search for, all the variety of use cases, and put them all on your homepage. That probably wouldn't convert as well as if you would create tailored pieces of content for each, not necessarily for each search query, but for each kind of group, cluster of search queries that talk about the same thing. And now, if you do paid the right way, if you create those landing pages, those same landing pages, if they're executed well, they should deserve to rank organically, since they're answering those same queries. So in a way, if you do paid right, you're setting the foundation for your SEO, because you still need to create those pages, and those pages would be very relevant, and those pages would be discoverable unless you index them. So yeah, like paid is just a quick way to get results before organic rankings kick in.
Absolutely. And I also think that there's something which, I've seen in big companies and I experienced firsthand too often, which is paid and organic teams fight with each other. Like they're both battling for the same budget, the same keywords. And to me, that makes no sense, because paid is always going to be lower in the funnel, which means that there are harder terms to rank on. So let's say Ahrefs, you want to rank on the word SEO tool. I don't know if you rank on it organically. Yeah. You do?
Not at the top, yeah.
Okay, so that's a keyword that you just buy, right? You fight against the competitors you fight against, and you bid for it however you'll bid, and you just forget ranking on it, you own it. Now let's say you're looking for a keyword research tool, which is a little bit further down the funnel than SEO tool. Maybe that's something you can rank on organically, but that makes less sense to bid on if you could rank on organically. So hand in hand, paid should be spending money on the lower in the funnel, more competitive terms, and SEO should be ranking on the higher in the funnel, less competitive terms. So they should help each other rather than fight for the same terms. Like if SEO can rank on something, why bid on it?
Yeah, I just checked. The search intent seems to have changed recently for the keyword SEO tool, because it's mostly listicles. But yeah, like the first half of the page is listicles, and then we have a bunch of home pages. So it's interesting. And yeah, I think no one is bidding for it right now, at least according to Ahrefs data, which is interesting.
Oh, I just Googled it, and we have a lot of people bidding. You have Site Improve, that other tool that you can bid against. Zapier.
Zapier is bidding for SEO tool?
Yes. And SAS.Black Friday is bidding for it, which I never heard of that before.
Never heard of that as well. Interesting. So
it's an affiliate site, which is potentially your affiliate because they have a link to you.
We don't have an affiliate program.
Oh, then that's weird. Oh, what are they doing? You should check this out. But yes, they are sending traffic to you with a UTM campaign on it. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. So your engagements with clients are pretty, what's the right word? Complex, sophisticated, unstructured, because like for every client it would be very unique. It's not like you do the same keyword research, the same SEO audit, the same content strategy. So basically when you are starting to work with the client, you don't even know what you're going to do for them until like those discovery calls and you get the ideas. But now that you've been in it for quite a few years, what's the typical length of your involvement with a client?
The best clients go way over a year. What I have found. Oh yeah, so all of my engagements are monthly consulting clients. I try to sign contracts for as long as possible because it's a long effort. I find that whenever people ask me like, how long does SEO take? And I don't know, I'm sure you get asked this all the time. I'd say for like the way all of my projects, it takes way over a year because it takes them 6 months before they even do anything. Like it takes us a month or two to decide what we're going to do. And then they staff a team. And then like 6 months in, they're finally launching something. We see a little bit of engagement and impressions coming in, but then not until a year do they really have anything meaningful. And like I said earlier, that company that's printing money, it took them 9 months to launch anything. And now it's printing money and they fired the whole team and no one knows. But that's very typical. There was a client I worked with. They've probably generated more than $1 billion from SEO at this point. And I started with them. They hadn't had anything. And I worked with them for 4 years to the point that they finally hired as an SEO team. So all of my engagements really differ, but ideally they're long because it's something we're doing together collaboratively. I'm not replacing an agency. I'm not even replacing an in-house employee. I'm bringing like the SEO experience, SEO expertise in a specific product-led SEO way. So the alternative to working with me is somewhat a product manager internally that would want to drive this kind of thing. It's not like they need an SEO manager or they need an agency. I don't know that there are any agencies that do exactly what I do.
What's the maximum number of clients that you had in any month?
It was probably 2021 was a very, very good year for SEO consulting. And I think I had 9 in 1 month.
9 in 1 month.
Yeah. It was very busy. I had 2 very, very large clients. And also I have some clients that I work with on a much lighter scale where they have a team. And the way I talk to companies about how they should apportion their SEO spend or SEO effort is based on their mind share. So if they expect that 10% of their acquisition will be coming from SEO, then they shouldn't be spending 10% of their marketing budget. They should only be spending 10% of their marketing budget on SEO. And they should only be spending 10% of their time on SEO. You don't want to go and spend 80% of your time on SEO when the majority of the traffic comes from trade shows. That means you've left no time for trade shows or for paid. Really, that's the way it should break it down. So some clients I don't meet with that frequently because even like if I were to meet with them, it's been a learning process of how to work with clients. But when I first started, I offered everyone the same thing. I'm like, oh, we'll meet whenever you want. We'll meet at least once a week. And then I was showing up at meetings and they were apologizing and saying, I'm sorry, we didn't get to any SEO this week. We didn't have time. It didn't come up in the stand-ups. That wasn't a good use of my time or it wasn't a good use of anyone else's time. So I started figuring out these engagements and I said, how often are you going to be checking in with engineers? Do you have a full-time engineer tasked to this? And that's how we decide the meeting cadence. Obviously, we can have ad hoc, but as I negotiate and discuss these contracts, I want it to align with their specific culture and their specific schedules.
Do you do anything yourself for client acquisition, or they just find you themselves?
I do a lot myself. I'm on your podcast. No, yeah, most people will come in from LinkedIn or by email, but it's not. I don't do any outbound specifically. I find that when it comes to outbound for SEO, it's not as effective for the way I do SEO because people have to want it. So I know there are agencies out there that are constantly sending emails. Oh, your links are toxic. I need to come help you. Or your website sucks according to this Ahrefs graph. I need to come help you. Maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't. But for me, I can't like go to companies and say, I've looked at your strategy. You don't have an SEO strategy. You need to come and pay me for the next year, and I'm going to give you an SEO strategy. And they'll say, no, thank you. There's a reason we didn't have one. So I've done on occasion through like networks and, for people I've met, I would say, I suggest you have an SEO strategy and I'd be glad to help you. And they would say, no, thank you. I'm good. So that's why I just don't find it that effective to do outbound.
I guess my question was more of, so you clearly felt when that Y Combinator podcast sent you quite a few clients, but now you are quite a known name in the field, and you have a lot of existing and past clients, which probably sends you referrals, and just people know you. Like if you would go to Google and search like top SEO experts or blah blah blah, you would probably be on most lists. Which is why I'm wondering if you really need to, for example, do something like this podcast or go to conferences and speak for client acquisition. Like, do you see the correlation between you doing those things and clients finding you? Like, do clients typically tell you, oh, like I saw your presentation at this conference. I like what you said about this and that. I'm wondering if this can implement it for your business. Or someone after hearing this podcast would reach out like, Eli, I didn't really, by the way, Eli, or how to pronounce correctly?
Eli, yeah, you got it.
Eli, yeah, sorry. Like, I really liked your ideas, those cases that you discussed with Tim. Let's work together. Do you see any correlation with that?
Not usually. I'd say the number one thing I like that comes from podcasts is people reach out and they say, can you advise me because I think my SEO agency's potentially screwing me. So I love that. I like to help people. They're like, I heard what you were saying, and they told me I'm buying these $3 premium links. So I love to be able to help people and point people in the right directions. My favorite thing is to convince people not to spend money on SEO when they were about to. So just walk through like their acquisition stack and just say, why would you have an agency? This is a classic example. I meet companies and they tell me they spend $5,000 a month on SEO. And I say, well, how much do you drive from this channel over a year? Because that's $60,000 for the year. And they're like, I don't know. So I'm like, let's think about it. Where do you get any of your acquisition? Do you get $60,000 worth of acquisition from this? And then they say, definitely not. I'm like, well, definitely don't spend $60,000 on it. Like, I love doing that just because I find it's helpful and they can reallocate and have better success with their business. I don't think I've ever signed up a client from a conference presentation, but again, I like to get back and like see the way people think about it. If I were offering specific services, like maybe an audit or some research, maybe I could. But if for very specific strategy consulting, I don't know that I'm going to sign up clients at a conference.
How many conferences did you speak at last year?
0, I think.
0?
Yes.
Why? Precisely because of what you just said?
Precisely because of what I just said. One exception. I spoke at Google had their thing. They what do they call it? Where they rotate around to different countries.
Yeah, I don't
they did
remember.
in Singapore. So I spoke at
Webmaster something, I think. Google Webmasters.
That's the only thing I spoke at.
Okay.
So I spoke there. They had it in San Francisco. Just thought it was interesting to do that. I built a brand new deck around how to develop an SEO strategy. So that was the only one I spoke at. Everywhere else, like every conference I've been to, I've not gone as a speaker. I go to network and hang out because I don't find that I get a ton of value from speaking, so I just don't do it.
Okay.
I do a lot of virtual though.
Yeah.
The virtual is
I want to talk more about your book. So you kind of shared how idea came to you. It was basically brewing in your head for quite a long time, and you were talking about it. You were going to conferences back in the day and presenting it, and then you started implementing it for some of the clients. So I guess you naturally felt that you have something to write a book about. Is this correct? Or like, was it a more, I don't know, calculated or just a goal? I need to write a book about something. What would it be? Let's figure it out. How did that go?
It actually was sort of calculated. So I wanted to write a book because I was starting to become a consultant and I wanted to have something different. So I thought, well, if I have a book, that might make me different than other consultants and other agencies. The part that I didn't calculate was I didn't think anybody would buy the book. So when I wrote this book and I self-published it. I work with a hybrid publisher. I've fronted all the costs on it. We talked about it and I gave you my experiences on selling books. So I worked with this hybrid publisher and I thought I'll write this book. My family will buy it. I'll give it out to clients and it'll be like my business card. The part, again, I didn't expect was that I was going to sell thousands of books. I don't know exactly how many books I sold. I'd stopped counting. I used to have to add it up. I stopped counting after 11,000. So I never thought I would sell more than, in my wildest dreams, I thought I was going to sell 500. So it was just, this will be my business card. I'll come into people and they'll say, you got this weird product-led SEO thing. Tell me more about it. I'm like, here, I'd like to present you a book and I'll even sign it for you. That's what I thought. I didn't think that so many people, obviously all strangers, I don't know all these people, would buy the book and talk about the book and review the book and recommend it. So that was lucky. I accidentally wrote a book that people wanted to read.
So how did you promote your book to sell, like you said, 2,000 copies on the first day and then 10,000 or 11,000 copies right now?
I don't know. I shared on LinkedIn and Twitter that my book is coming out, and then everyone just started buying it and telling everyone else. And then I don't have that many friends. Let's say 100 friends, and all those people told other people, and it just started going itself. I'm still selling, 3 to 10 copies of the book every single day, and I'm even selling more now than I was selling a year ago. So I've accidentally created a category. I accidentally wrote a book that people wanted to read and accidentally created a category.
This is amazing. So you didn't flesh out the whole marketing plan. You didn't send books, to influencers, etc., etc.
I had some influencers that reviewed my book, but they didn't really help sell it. I'd say one thing that I was very fortunate of, and I never expected it. So remember, I was in Singapore because I was at SurveyMonkey, and the CEO of SurveyMonkey, Dave Goldberg, who passed away, was the one that sent me to Singapore. And he passed away while I was there. So I dedicated the book to him. So when I sent the book to his wife, Sheryl Sandberg. So she wrote a review or congratulated me for launching the book on the day I launched the book and posted a picture of it. So I don't know how much that helped me sell the book because I'd already gotten tons of sales before she did that. But obviously it was pretty special.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice story. Well, that's a sad story, but at the same, very, very cool of you to dedicate the book to him. Okay. I've read your article with SEO predictions. There were a few interesting ones that I want to discuss. First of all, you said that SGE, Search Generative Experience, will kill 50% of the traffic. You said it will likely launch early in the new year, and I think it will be the most impactful event for SEO ever. For some websites, it will decimate traffic by 80 to 90%, while for others, it will only impact 10 to 15. So I will take the opposite stance. I would argue that this year nothing that dramatic would happen. My reasoning is that, a lot of people discussed it. It's not unique. SGE, it doesn't have ads in it, and Google needs to make money by selling ads. So I think this is their biggest conundrum. SGE and their ad strategy. But I wonder what makes you think that they will roll out SGE and it will kill so much traffic. Where is this prediction coming from?
So being back in the Bay Area has been very it's interesting because there's still a lot of like remote kind of stuff. So it's not the same as it was before I moved to Singapore. But being back in the Bay Area has been very helpful in networks and understanding like what Google's doing, because there's random people I talk to and I learn stuff. What I've learned from various people that I've met who work at Google is that the Googlers want to launch it. It's sitting in this ready state. But Google itself is scared. And that was one of my last newsletter posts where, like I said, is Google afraid to launch SGE? So it does upset a lot of things. It will hurt revenue because they have not monetized. They don't know how to monetize SGE yet, but they will figure it out. They've been doing the same thing for the last 20 years where they just have 10 blue links or 7 blue links, and then they have ads, and they've added more ads, and they drive so much revenue from those ads. Like launching SGE hurts ads. Like that was a prediction I had last year that there would be a significant drop in revenue, in Google ad revenue because of SGE. So I think Google wants to launch it. I think it's good. I don't know what your experience is with SGE, but I like it. I like that it has answers. I like that it's helpful, and I don't need to click links to get answers. So, but there's risk to them. The risks are revenue risks. There's also a huge legal risk. I'm writing this LinkedIn post. Google's actually using images. They're writing content. They're using images from Google Images, other people's images, to enrich content. I don't know if that's fair use or not. So there's risks, like legal risks and revenue risks, user risks. So they don't want to launch it because they're scared of it. But I think Googlers themselves want to launch it. So I think they will launch it. I think they just haven't been forced into it yet because ChatGPT didn't continue to rise. But the thing is it's not just about OpenAI. It's not just about Bing. Have you checked out Perplexity?
Once. I didn't use it much, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it.
So they raised a lot. They raised $75 million. So like it's not, Google's being attacked from all sides. And I think at some point in time, they will have to launch SGE because users will expect generative AI to answer their questions. So I think they'll launch it. Like that's my prediction. I think they're probably not going to launch it. Maybe now I don't know that they'll launch it in Q1, but they're going to keep it in this ready state. And that's what Labs helps them to do. It maintains this ready state that at any point in time they could launch it.
Okay, let me give you my prediction, and I will probably be wildly off, but this is what I would probably do. So instead of defaulting people's searches to SGE, where the answer is generated, I would prefer to offer kind of a chatbot option. It's almost like the floating thing, kind of talk to Google. So you would search for whatever you're searching for, like best SEO tool, and it would give you the search results that are sending you to different websites. But also there would be some floating widget. Like, do you want AI to give you a recap of the search results? So my prediction is that they will not risk changing people's behavior so dramatically, because me and you, we are basically on the forefront of what is happening with Google. This is our job. We're thinking about Google, about SEO all the time. We're watching what's happening. We're like digging into all the new SERP features. But if we take a random human being, and like it's almost everyone around the world is using Google. I mean, my mom is using Google, but she doesn't understand any of SEO. And I think to change the experience so dramatically for everyone, they would just be confused. Like, what is happening to my search engine? I wanted, like, I got used to, I don't know, searching for Facebook in Google and clicking on Facebook, because I believe one of the top search queries in Google is still Facebook. People are that kind of clueless of how, I know, browsers and all that thing works. So I would imagine that with the vast majority of people not being tech savvy even to the level to understand well all the intricacies of Google search results, I don't think they would risk just rolling out this whole new experience of talking to Google and getting answers like that. So this is my prediction.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I think I don't think they could put it away. I think generative AI is here to stay in some way or another.
Yeah,
they're going to continue going deep into it. I happen to like SGE. I think it's useful. So let's see.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably throw off a lot of users. I think there's a lot of risk, but I think it's here to stay.
My experience is that there are certain things where you want to use AI for it. Usually it's more like a task. Give me a recap of like latest news in American politics for the past 2 weeks. This is not something you can search for. This is something you can ask AI to do for you. But sometimes if I just want to search for, best burger joints in Singapore, I'm perfectly fine visiting some pages rather than getting a list from Google SGE, because I want to see pictures, I want to see links to their Instagram profiles. I want to visit a well done page that helps me to do like a better research of what burger joint I want to visit. So I think these are different experiences, and this is why I don't think that Google would make a bet to just defaulting everyone to SGE. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
Again, they're testing it. I think that's what's helpful about labs. Yeah. But what they're likely going to do somewhat secretly is do a non-logged in test. So like that's what they were actually supposed to do it. This is what I know from Googlers I talked to. They were supposed to be a non-logged in test. So just a regular Google test that was supposed to happen. First it was June, then it was September, then it was November. And I don't know that they did it. Maybe they did do it. So I think they'll hold on to it. They can't kill it, because if they kill it, investors will wonder why they're not doing generative AI. And I don't think they'll kill it anyways, because they need to have something.
Okay, next prediction. ChatGPT will launch a search engine. What makes you think so? And like, what do you mean? Isn't ChatGPT kind of a search engine already?
No, but you can't click off. So I think ChatGPT is going to do an integration with Bing, because that's why Microsoft gave them money. So you'll do a chat. It'll basically be SGE. So you'll have like this. You'll do a query. You'll get a ChatGPT response, and then you'll have 10 blue links from Bing.
Okay. Is this a big threat to Google, though? Like, I don't even know the stats. How big is the usage of ChatGPT compared to the usage of Google? If I were to guess, it's like less than 10%.
It is, yeah.
Or less than 1%, less than 1%.
I just think it would be a value-add product, because part of the argument against generative AI search is that people still want to click off, like you just said. You want links. So what if instead of Google becoming like ChatGPT becomes like Google? That's what I think will happen.
Yeah, but my argument is that ChatGPT is a relatively unknown product compared to Google.
I totally agree with that. And because it stayed unknown is why Google didn't launch SGE. I just think that there's no reason that ChatGPT, OpenAI, doesn't move more into Google's territory by just becoming a search engine. They'll just use Bing. That's what I think. They'll just have Bing integrated. And the argument against ChatGPT is it doesn't have search will just become irrelevant because it'll have search.
Yeah. Well, I would probably agree with you on that. I think that's very plausible that ChatGPT would let you basically search the web for the pages you need. Kind of precisely because what I just said about burger joints, I do want to click off. I do want to visit a page that someone has crafted for me. But yeah, they might rely on Bing, but we'll see if they will do a good job with this. This would be interesting. Next one, and I think that's the final prediction I wanted to discuss with you from that article. Google will publicly announce that guest posts pass no value. Can you explain this?
Yeah. So Google's always getting into this. Do links matter? Do links not matter? And I feel like they keep leaning into like, stop thinking about links so much. And I just had a thing I posted on LinkedIn, and John Mueller commented on it. he said I took something out of context. I probably did take it out of context, to be fair. Like he had a comment on something that Lily Ray had asked about canonicals and syndicated content and like the link question. And he said, why do you think, is it really worth your efforts to think about links? And I just think the SEO world overthinks links, and they keep saying links don't matter so much, but they never explicitly said, as far as I know, guest posts don't matter. And I think saying guest posts don't matter would gut the entire industry around all the spam we get on LinkedIn. So I think links are helpful. I don't think links are as helpful as they were initially when Google came out. Like generative AI is the way Google processes content with AI is more useful for understanding authority probably than just PageRank, right? They can understand how authoritative content is without links entirely. But guest posts in a way of manipulating links, I think they don't count anymore. And if Google were to announce it, they would gut that entire industry.
I would argue with you here. First of all, let me undermine your credibility a little, kind of in a good way, because you seem to be working with very large clients right now. These are huge websites with huge authority. So it's natural that you don't think about links. Whatever content you put on those sites, they have enough authority to rank it well. While if we talk to an affiliate SEO, someone who has to launch websites on brand new domains with zero backlinks, I'm telling you, they will say links are crucial. Links are super important. And there's the whole industry of buying and selling links. And like there's like agencies that make millions of dollars with things like, PR links where they like pitch journalists, tens of thousands of journalists to get links, and people pay premium for those things because these things work so well. So yeah, I think links are still incredibly important. And one other thing I want to argue with you about is figuring out the authority of the content with AI, understanding if content deserves to rank by itself. So the thing is, because we have our own search engine at Ahrefs, and we are playing with our own language models and all that, and we have our own computing powers, we're building our own data centers, it is super expensive. It is crazy expensive to use AI on every single page on the web. So if you were to process every single page on the web with AI, I don't know, it would be billions and billions of dollars in computational powers. And then you have to probably use AI to compare those pages between themselves, or still you have some kind of algorithm that can not just process one page, but you have hundreds of thousand pages to rank. So you need to, it gets complicated basically. So, and then we have people who are now generating new websites with AI generated content, which bloats the web even more, and so Google has to pick and choose whatever if they are processing content right now with AI, they have to be very careful with the amount of content that they implement those AI processing powers on. So I would argue that we're not going to get a linkless authority very soon.
I'll accept some of that. What I would say is, when it comes to small brands or smaller businesses, and I've seen this before, that want to rank on individual stuff. So say someone wants to rank on personal injury attorney for Oakland, California. Links help, but it's not so competitive. So I don't think you need that consistent follow-on link after link that a lot of people focus on, where you have an agency just get them lots of links. Probably just a very small handful help. And the guest post in particular, the entire, and this is where I say guest posts don't count, most of that industry is spammy. So if I were to guest post on Ahrefs and got a link back to my site, which would be great, I think it would be helpful because Ahrefs has authority, my site has authority, great. But if I were to get a link on some spammy site and guest post, I don't think it matters. By the way, just one interesting piece. I just noticed this while we were talking before. So if you Google product-led SEO, which is a very important term for me, it's probably my only important term. What do you see ranking number 1? So, and I search it, I see my website ranking number 1, and I see Amazon ranking number 2. So
for me, Amazon.sg is number 3.
Okay, fine. So I'm outranking. Oh, it's fun. Okay, so I'm outranking my own website, which I don't even know what links I have. What's my Ahrefs score? You can look that up, right? I have no idea, and it doesn't matter to me. I'm outranking Amazon. And when I search my own name, let's see. When I search my own name, I'm ranking number 1 for my name. Yay, great. Look at that competitive search. But I'm outranking LinkedIn, and I'm outranking Twitter. So that's where I mean that links are more dynamic than it's just PageRank and authority. The guest posts that I've done are nowhere near in comparison to what Amazon has, like, and all the link authority that goes through. That's. I'm not saying that Google's going to use AI and LLM on every single page in the world. It's just that they're doing more of this. They're layering in more AI in how they process and understand the web and what should be an authority versus the way it is when we first started doing SEO, which is PageRank, like algorithmic mathematical measurements of like, this is a PR 10 and it links to this page. So there it becomes a PR 9 and that's a PR 8. Like that's what people are trying to architect when they're doing guest posting and they're doing linking. And I just think we're living in a more dynamic world that I don't think there's anything that Amazon could do to outrank me for this term. I mean, Amazon, I didn't even realize Amazon.sg, that's its own page, right? So like, how does Amazon.sg get that like authority that the same Amazon.com, and I see Amazon.com at number 2 and you see it at number 3, like there's all that ties together, and that's AI. That's not LLM, that's AI. So that's where I see like people approach guest posting with this very mathematical lens. And I think it's just a bigger picture.
I think I inadvertently set up a little trap for you because I have in my notes your quote from 2019 where you said, I don't think SEO ever evolves. SEO is the same as it always was. And now you're talking about how back in the days we had like backlinks and backlink signals and PR, and now they're using more of authority to rank pages. So do you think you still stand by this quote? And of course it is taken out of context. So we need to know like what kind of context it was said at, because like it can have different angles. But I wonder like if you still remember saying anything like that and what you meant by that.
I don't know how I said that quote, but like there's that podcast I mentioned earlier that I did with Y Combinator. I have to listen to it again, but I think most of what I said in that Y Combinator podcast in 2017 is still valid. Like in that sense, SEO doesn't really change. Google is measuring, and whatever search engines are measuring content quality with user signals and putting the whole picture together. I think the tactics change. So guest post was a tactic that I think expires because when guest post first came out, and it's been forever, right? That this concept of building backlinks based on authority first came out. Authority was more one-dimensional, and now I think authority is multi-dimensional. So you can have an example I've used many times in interviews. So SurveyMonkey had links from the White House on a few occasions. And one of the occasions that you can't find it anymore, but we at SurveyMonkey, we said some nice things about Donald Trump. So Donald Trump, his team straight up stole the blog posts from SurveyMonkey and replicated it, the whole blog post with the internal links on whitehouse.gov. So I measured the impact of what those links did, and it did nothing. And the reason why is because in a dynamic world, the White House is, let's say, if PageRank existed, I don't know what you have in Ahrefs, but like domain authority, but if it existed, we would see it as like a PR 10. It's as high as you can get from an authority standpoint in Google's eyes. However, when it came to authority on surveys and authority on user research, it has zero authority. So that's where it becomes more dynamic, and it makes sense, right? Like if I can acquire a link from the White House, why should it help me with surveys if the White House is not an authority on surveys? So that's where I think SEO evolves and it improves and it gives a better user experience. If you look at one of the things that helpful content was supposed to target, I don't know if you have this in Singapore, but a lot of the media websites in America, like the Wall Street Journal and CNN, they took advantage of their authority to create subdomains around coupons, for example. Like, why should, let's say it's coupons.wsj.com or coupons.cnn.com. Just because they're a media property, why should they be able to have this authority? So what helpful content did is Google said, no, you are a news site. You're a political authority, but you're not an authority on deals. You're done. You're erased. Groupon is an authority on deals. They get to be there, but Groupon is not an authority on media and politics. So that makes sense. In that sense, Google should evolve. We shouldn't just be able to get the highest domain authority possible, and therefore you're able to just build up SEO artificially. So I stand by that quote in the sense that the basic rules around SEO and content quality still will always remain the same, provided we're doing textual search, not video search, not image search. But I do think it should evolve because it's better for users. Like, again, SurveyMonkey shouldn't be the highest ranking survey tool because we're able to get a link from the White House if we're not the highest ranked survey tool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually agree with that statement. And this is the reason why I don't really spend that much of my time to dig into all those Google updates. Whenever they roll out an update, everyone seems to discussing it a lot, analyzing which sites went down. I'm as someone in charge of marketing for Ahrefs, I'm not that interested in correlating their updates to our search traffic because I follow the very simple principles. Create amazing content based on our first-hand experience. Don't steal anything. Create unique stuff. Make sure people from the industry are talking about you. Make sure you're getting good links from good websites, and you'll be good. I don't need to understand what helpful content update does. I just, like, the word helpful gives me all the information I need. Our content should be helpful, and we were focusing on that years before Google rolled out this helpful content update. So in that sense, I completely agree with you. The SEO principles remain the same for many, many years. It's just Google itself, they're coming up with new technologies to better understand what's good and what should be ranking. And we understand it intrinsically because when people look at pages and information, they see, oh, this is good, this is not. But we're humans. Google is an algorithm. So they are the ones who are catching up with how humans do it.
Yeah, and the they is really defined differently. So I'd say, like, you know, I've been doing SEO for a long time, and I've known SEO at Google engineers. And there was a time where, let's say, going back to like the Matt Cutts days, where he knew how the algorithm worked. Like, he knew pieces of it. He wrote some code. I'd say today, like that query you looked at before, SEO tools, no one at Google could tell you why they're now ranking aggregator sites for SEO tools. The algorithm taught itself. That's AI. And the algorithm understood user intent. And there are, I 100% believe that they've always been taking in user signals. So they looked at the user signals, and that's how the algorithm decided to treat it. You can't reverse engineer it. I think a lot of times people in SEO try to reverse engineer something about it and then try to do the exact same thing, and it doesn't work because there's so much more that goes into it. You can't match all the rules. So let's say if I go to Ahrefs and I look at someone else's backlinks and then I look at their website. So if I got all the exact same backlinks and I got all they use the exact same text and all of that, you still couldn't achieve the exact same ranking because there's other factors in there, like the user signals, like maybe the age of domain is factored somehow or another. Maybe Ahrefs did not capture all the links that are there. Maybe there's social signals that, right? So like you can't reverse engineer it, and no one at Google could reverse engineer it because there's not a recipe. There's just like, it's the favorite way of putting this is it's organic. You can't take the seed from one plant and then expect the next plant to be the exact same way. There's like natural factors that weigh in there.
Absolutely agree. Last question. Again, based on something you recently shared on LinkedIn. Basically, you were comparing the marketing in the offline world and the online world. And you said you can use online attribution and measurement efforts for offline marketing campaigns. So this is very interesting, and let's briefly discuss the topic of marketing attribution and management, because I'm in the camp that marketing attribution is borderline impossible because of how nuanced marketing it is. Because like when you create a piece of content, you can put some of it on LinkedIn, you can put some of it on YouTube, you can talk at conferences, and this piece of content would reach different people at different times. So attributing how that influenced your sales or your business, to me, I don't see how this is possible. But then again, it is an advantage that you worked with some of the biggest customers out there, with some of the biggest resources to hire the smartest people in data science and analytics. So I want to hear from you. Like, I wonder, I don't think you would argue that for the little guy, marketing attribution is pretty much impossible. But when we get to the scale of those like super big companies, how does it look like there?
I don't remember the exact thing I wrote on LinkedIn, but I would say like the small company problem is they lack the data to analyze, or they lack the data to really understand it. The big company problem is they lack the people to understand the data. So I don't think anybody really gets the perfect attribution. There was a company I worked with on a really big project, and it took them, I don't know, I feel like close to a year before they built the connectors. And it was a complicated scenario to understand SEO, because the way they made money was people paid in an app. So you had search. So from search, you went to the website. The website encouraged you to download the app. The app encouraged you to create an account. You had an account, and then you paid in the app. So that was how they acquired. And that's a very natural way of many businesses making money. So how do we measure SEO? Well, it's possible. You can figure out the original traffic turned into a download because it got a unique ID. And then from the unique ID, you could look at they created an account. And then once you have an account, you could look at the money they spent. And all that takes time. It's, again, totally possible. It took like a year before they were able to build that connector. So before they built all that, I was like, I guess it's working. Traffic's going up. Looks like we rank on some good terms. Like, good job. SEO is doing great. But they had to like prioritize that effort. It was totally there. So that's what I'd say is no one gets attribution correct, whether you're big or you're small. When you're small, and like the best thing is, so I don't rarely use Google Analytics now. This is because I find it's too complicated and it doesn't get me anywhere I want to get. But I've like worked with so many companies prior to GA4. I would look at their analytics and they're like, oh, don't trust that. It's not accurate. So like, why are we looking at it? It's not accurate. Like, how do you know? And like, I found that was like so often. And then it comes to GA4 and they're like, well, we're not really sure it's implemented correctly. So then why are you sharing access with me? So I'd say little companies, they overanalyze their data and then get stuck. And big companies, they just ignore their data. I think the most important piece of data in any company is really going to be like the money the CFO has. Like, did we collect Stripe? Did people pay or did they not pay? And not really overanalyze like the sources of traffic. Many companies I talk to, they're like, well, all of our organic is lumped in with direct. Like, great, that's super helpful. Thank you. They figured out how to measure paid, but they can't measure anything else.
Yeah. This is such a good idea. This is such a good quote phrase that small companies overanalyze the little data that they have, and big companies just don't have the resources to implement the correct analysis of all the vast data that they have. I'm so going to use that in my book, of course, with the credit to you. This is where I learned it from, but yeah, it's so good. Thanks.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is, so I had this at SurveyMonkey. They built this thing called a data lake, and it just it sounds like it is. And they kept adding things to the data lake. So it was never finished. So I'd say that's another big company problem, is there's too many pieces of data you could collect. So you never have this full picture. And then you realize that you don't need all those pieces of information. So let's say at a high, and they never got to the simplified version. So let's say I care the most about organic traffic. At a high level, I just want to know how much money did each channel make. So then what they do is they're like, well, that's an unfair question because you have all these triggers and we need to pull in all these triggers. And then you never really get to the complete answer because they're like, well, what if it was paid traffic, but it touched an organic page accidentally? So we need to capture that. So they're never done. So
Yeah.
I like the way it was years ago with like, I don't know, GA3 or whatever it was called before GA4. Is like this traffic, this percentage, this is like last click conversion. But like that's crazy to just do last click or first click. You just always need this complicated attribution and more complicated than ever.
I so agree with you, and this is so good. This whole chat, this whole interview was so good. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for
absolutely.
coming and sharing all your knowledge. I learned a ton.